Welcome to Duck Club Tuning and Finding the Sweet Spot. Grab a cup of coffee and like and subscribe.
And welcome back to Duck Club Tuning, Finding the Sweet Spot. Today I have the Punch Audio Martilo, sent to me by Mike out of California, same guy who sent me the Zenz Manger Top Pro. He reached out to me. I do a service, paid service. He asked if I would do both of these. I said I'll do them for free because these sets are highly anticipated. Several subscribers have asked me for this one. They've said, can you compare this against the Zenz Top Pro as well as some of the others? I'm comparing it against the Cano Cristales today as well. And with that, let's get stuck into the review for the Martilo. Bit of a tour around the IEM itself. I have it here on my desk. It looks like red broken tile with black lines if you look at it in low light. But you can see that it actually sparkles a little bit when you get some light reflecting off of those lines as well. It's really cool. It sort of gives me that Spider-Man vibe. It comes with this beautiful brown cable. The brown cable is nice and chunky. I like chunky brown cables, and in fact I put a couple of them here as well. The plug that's on this, interestingly enough, it's a push-pull plug, and you get a 3.5 and a 4.4, but it's the same plug. Let's say I take the origin over here and I unplug this. This is directly off my origin, and boom. Guess what? They're both sold by Lenshole. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, same thing with the Audio Monarch Mark IV. I've got it on my desk right there. We'll talk about that in just a sec. The plugs are interchangeable. I actually really like the plug they put on here more than the Origin. The Origin's plug is kind of boring. It just says the audio on it. This is branded. It says Punch Audio on it. It is nice and chunky. That 4-twist brown, I really like that. I have a few of them, so let me show you here. This is my Alpha Omega Ra. It's a root beer color. I've done a review on this one, but I changed its cable out. It came with a yellow cable. I just thought this brown cable with the 4-twist, very similar to the one that comes with the Martilo, was better. And this cable cost half as much as what the Martilo costs. So you are actually getting great value in the accessory, great value in the cable itself when you buy this IEM. You will not be disappointed. I also have the Monarch Mark IV here. It was sent to me by Bloom Audio. It also has that same plug, so I can interchange that onto there if I want to, but it has that brown cable. Maybe that's the new rage, is this brown cable. This is an 8-twist, by the way, instead of a 4-twist, but I love the look of a really nice chunky brown cable for some reason, and Martilo has it. It's really good. Drivers. There's one planar, 2 BAs, and 2 8mm dynamic drivers. The BAs are Knowles. So in total, there are 5 drivers. Next is the impedance is only 9 ohms. So it's very easy to drive. If you have a dongle DAC, this comes in at $329. This may be a great, let's say, budget mid-tier set for somebody who likes to hear a lot of punch. And Punch Audio likes to hear a lot of slam, a lot of rumble. This has very good bass. It comes with 2 sets of tips. You've got 3 tips in the silicon. You've got 3 tips in the foam. I don't use foams. And I always use Venus Velvets when I'm doing my testing because I need to make sure that I have standardized on that. I take it away as a variable. That being said, there's the plugs, the 3.5 and the 4.4, both that come with this. That's the box. This is the case. I have the case here. The case is a PU leather. It's a rather large square case and holds that nice chunky beast in there quite well. And there's the extra plug came with it. I did not use that. I didn't use the extra tips. I just use my Venus Velvets when I do my testing. Here is the graph. If you go to duckbook.squig.link, you can find my graph that I've posted on there for the Martilo. You can see that it is ever so slightly bass over treble. And I like that. I like when the bass, and I'm a little bit of a bass head, self-admitted. It tucks in very well at 200 hertz. So it doesn't get too fat through the glide into the lower mids, so the vocals still sound good. It has a very good amount of treble extension, but I did think this dip right here needed to be filled in a little bit as well, and I'll show you that further on when I do the tuning. This is after I create 35 parametric EQs. I load them into my trusty DX320 Max TI, and I do my 30 song listen. And I actually have the sheet here. I wanted to show you. So here's 4 different IEMs that I did. I've got the NA20, I've got the D62, and the FX17 down here below. But that's the Martilo up the top. And sometimes, just for a single song, I'll pick up to 4 different PEQs because I think it lands somewhere in between. So if I think that it's kind of neutral, but the bright 1 sounds good too, then I know that it needs to fall somewhere between. If I think that the bass 3 setting sounds good, but the bass 4 setting also sounds good, but maybe bass 4 has just a little bit too much bass, then I know it falls between. And that's how I score it. So I break it out by 0.25. If there's 4 scores in a single column, it gets 0.25 times 4, making it 1. This next one only had 2, so it was 0.5 each. And that's where it was at bass 4. You had neutral and bright 1, so I did 0.5 for each. And that's what makes up this graph, 30 song listen, and shows you on average where I think it lands. And for this one, I think it landed at the bass 3.25 and neutral to 0.25 bright. And that's why the arrow is just here at the back of this, because it leans a little bit towards these other settings over here, so it rounds out and play just about anything. And this is where I think it started, almost bass 2, just under bass 2. So it elevated in bass when I added a little bit more bass to it. This is my scoring on my spider graph. I went out to 4 decimal places. I'll explain why because of this one, but let's start out over here with the before PEQ settings, and that is in blue all the way around, just here. 9.2324 or a 9.23, which means it is an A tier. It is a solid middle A tier IM out of the box for $329. Very good value. Everything scored above a 9. The stars of the show were the sub bass, bass, and bass feel, and the things that I thought needed a little bit more help were, let's say, the lower mids, upper mids, lower treble, upper treble, and then the soundstage detail and layering were pretty good. I thought that the timbre could use some help, and also the texture. But there's only so much you can do with texture because that is related, again, to the number of drivers you have. And then the tonality was fairly decent. The slam and the note weight were also excellent. Masking and sibilance always score higher. And just trying to see if you start to hear the t and the s when you listen to sibilance. And the masking is where you start to hear instruments laying over each other in some tracks, and they sort of cancel each other out, and it's hard to distinguish. So did very well for masking, did somewhat well for sibilance. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I thought the stars of the show were, again, the bass, the soundstage, the detail layering, and it is a very rounded IM. Here's after. It's in orange. Now we have out to 4 decimal places. The reason I did this, I wanted to show you it actually falls as a 9.4494, which is a very high A tier. It is not an S tier after PEQ, but it comes pretty close. It's still a very good all-rounder. If you start all-round, you're going to end up all-round after you add PEQ if you do it right. If you have some things that are lacking, you can make it rounded. If you've been following the channel, my goal is to make a very rounded experience where there's no attribute that is slacking. And with this one, it was easy to elevate it because it's tuned very much to my liking, but it didn't elevate a lot. And in the total score, it only went up by about 0.21. So it wasn't a huge leap in performance, although it does sound better with the PEQ. And that's because it was tuned pretty much by Punch Audio to its maximum potential. I just gave it a little bit of extra juice. Here's the before and after. I'm showing you here what I think are the strengths, and that's the bass region. Here are the weaknesses, and when I say weak, it was still over 9 for all of these attributes, but it's the lowest scoring, as well as over here in the timbre and the texture, you had the lower mids, lower treble, and upper treble, which were the lowest scoring attributes. Then the middle of the road attributes would be the soundstage, detail, and layering. The note weight and slam were also strengths directly related to the bass region. I put down sibilance as a little bit of a weakness on this because it did have a little bit of sibilance to it, but we were able to correct that and get it back up to a 9.93. You can see here the back in orange is what it landed at, and all the bars went up. So everything went up, especially the weaknesses, and that was what I was trying to do to make this a more rounded experience. Here's what it tuned to. I elevated starting from the left, the sub bass region, and then the bass region ever so slightly, but really the biggest difference was in the vocals right here in the lower mids and mids, bringing that up to bring those vocals forward slightly, make them more clear. So that took care of that. They were a little bit thin. And then my peanut gain is a little bit later. I do like that. It's in my sound signature. And then over here, what I told you I would fill that in between 8K and 10K, I added a little bit more juice to bring out more sparkle in this, which gives you better soundstage and detail and layering, as well as adding just a little bit of texture, and it made the tonality, the overall tuning made the tonality a little bit better as well. Here's the Martilo up against the Top Pro. The Top Pro costs about $500, and it's fairly new. People have been asking me on the channel, can you compare the Martilo against the Top Pro? Well, there you have it. And then the Cano Cristales is at $400, so $100 cheaper, and then you go down to the Martilo at $329, so it's like $70 cheaper again. But the difference between the Top Pro and the Cano Cristales is they have 10 drivers. They have 2 dynamic drivers and they have 8 BAs each. And that gives them a lot of texture and a lot of detail. So it's a little bit of an unfair fight, but they sort of are in the same price brackets, in that low to mid-tier price bracket. So before PEQ was applied, you can see that the Zen's Top Pro, which got a lot of praise with that W meta tuning, has excellent mids and treble, but its bass region was really lacking. And then in yellow is the Martilo. That's where the bass comes up. So that's where the star of the show on this one. But the yellow or the orange bars behind it are falling behind because they are nowhere near as good as what you get with the Top Pro in that region. Same thing over here on the Note, Weight, and Slam. It is low on the Top Pro, and it is much better in orange on the Martilo. Where you see it over here in the texture is much better on the Top Pro. The timbre is better, the tonality is better, and the IEMs actually rate very close to each other, and that's because I rate bass so high. So 9.22 for the Top Pro, 9.23 for the Martilo. So they rate the same, but it depends on what you want. Do you want something that's going to be really hard hitting, or do you want something that's going to be incredible detail? So having both of these IEMs in your stable, it would not be a problem. And this is without the PEQs applied. Then you look at the Cano Cristales, and that's where the bass is really high. And if you look at Super Reviews, you go to Mark Ryan's site, and I'll put a link in the description. He just did his review on the Cano Cristales as well. He rated it as a super bassy set, and not in a bad way, where you know the vocals were still clear and it still had good detail, but it just, the bass is the star of the show, and you can see that's evident here in the green, where it is much higher than the other two. And then its rating was a 9.29, so I actually rated it better than the other two out of the box. But again, the Martilo is the cheapest by $170 against the Top Pro, so it's actually a very good set, and it comes with that beautiful brown chunky cable. It is the best cable out of the Then you go down here to the after the tuning, but bass is the easiest thing to fix. On the Top Pro, we were able to elevate that bass and bring it up to the same level that we brought the Martilo up to. When you can see that the Martilo now is in blue just here, and it is lacking as compared to the other two for the lower mids, upper treble, lower treble, and the soundstage detail and layering, versus its, let's say, its more expensive big brothers. I'm not going to call them their peers, but the ones that everyone wants to see us compare this to right now. And then the sibilance was all pretty much the same across all of them, and you can see that the timbre was this was the least scoring on the Martilo, as well as the texture. Again, because it doesn't have 10 drivers, you're not going to get that same texture. You listening to a three-piece band or listening to an orchestra, you're going to hear a big difference, even though they're playing the same notes, and that's where the texture comes in from having more drivers. So the Martilo, what do I think about it? I think this is an excellent value for money. I'm going to put up a new scale that I just made. This is my value for money scale. And I'm going to put this up into the transition from blue into green. I'm going to say, I'm not going to highly rec this, but I'm going to say that not only does it compete with its peers, but I think that it, at this price point, if you're a bass head, this is probably the best thing going. So I'm going to give this a recommendation for those of you out there. And with that, next review, or one of the next reviews, will be the The Audio Monarch Mark IV. Be doing this shortly. It is a beast. I've had the Mark III for the last 2 years, and I got to tell you, this one is better. The hobby just keeps getting better. Please like and subscribe to the channel. If you would like a paid service, please go to my Patreon page. That'll be in the link as well. And you can look at the prices that I charge to send your IEM to me, and then I will do my tuning on it, and there's different levels. With that, please like and subscribe. Duck Look out.